Hello YouTube, this is Frugal. It's Sunday morning, I'm about to go flying and hopefully record some stuff and practice some stuff, and I thought, why don't I show you guys this, which is SIMstarter NG. Now I mentioned this on a news show a little while ago. It's a new product from Aerosoft which is designed to start your sim. Sounds really lame, doesn't it? But it's actually not. It's actually one of the most valuable things I've found, valuable flight sim utilities I've found in recent years, and I'm absolutely loving it. Before I dive into what it does, I do want to point out SIMstarter NG is what many of you call payware. I just call it commercial software or software, but it's payware. And it's derived from, let me grab a web browser, this. So aviation.peloonline.de has the original SIMstarter, which is freeware, and you'll see down the bottom here there's a couple of links. You can just download it for free and get going. They do have a method on this page somewhere, and I cannot find it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Gosh, I'm sure you guys can find it. I'm not going to waste time on video trying to find it, but there was a link here originally to support the developer and send in some cash, and I highly recommend you do that if you download the free one, rather than download and pay for SIMstarter NG from Aerosoft. And he does also mention at the top of the page here, please note SIMstarter freeware won't be supported any longer. Please use the successor SIMstarter NG, which is what we're going to do. So I bought the Pro one, the NG one, thereby giving some cash to the developer that way. And that's what I'm going to show you today. Why can't I get this off my screen? There we go. Okay, so SIMstarter NG. It's a very lame interface. And I say that with love. I don't mean that badly. It looks, when you run it up, really, really weak. It doesn't look like it's worth anything. Why on earth did I pay for this? But this little interface here that you're looking at hides a ton of power. There's like a million different screens to come up when you start clicking on things. The basic concept that I've figured out here, and I've not used this extensively. As you can see, I've set up what are called two profiles, VFR recording and high-res VFR. I haven't gone through and set up profiles for everything I ever do or film or fly. I've just set up the two because recently my focus has been on the Tapini tour, which is VFR flight. But the basic principle is you have these profiles, and these profiles define what the sim is going to do and how it's going to do it. So let me go into VFR recording here. Let's go through each option as much as I can and as quickly as I can, so as not to bore you and you get an idea. So when I start the sim here, I'm not going to use a save flight. I'm not going to have SIMstarter show me its METAR and TAF dialog. That means that when SIMstarter starts, it actually puts up a dialog and says, here's the weather that you're going to be flying in. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to use different situation settings. I'm not going to use system time, because when I film or when I fly, I like to set the system time myself. The reason I do that, of course, is that when I'm flying for a video I'm going to film, I like to know what the weather is and be able to set it rather than go, oh my God, it's a blizzard. I kind of like it to be somewhat as I expect. Simulator welcome screen, yes, I do show that. There are a number of aircraft in prepared which kind of like and require you to show the welcome screen. The PMDG 737 NGX, for example, can get a little bent out of shape if you drop straight into an aircraft and then change it. So show the welcome screen. This is where the meat is down here, main config sets. The sim config set, so how is my sim actually going to run? What are the settings in the sim? I'm using a config set I created called VFR recording config. The run set, now these are the applications that will start when the sim starts, is my VFR flying run set. These two are very powerful. Let me show you what the VFR recording config looks like. So we click on edit. And after a little delay, up comes the next panel. Notice now the number of options has gone through the roof. We've got a ton of tabs here, very much like in Prepared or FSX itself. Each tab representing really settings within the sim. And you can see here for my VFR recording, what I'm doing is black out the desktop, we'll turn that on. Autofill main view, we'll turn that on. A lot of you ask, Frugal, what are your AA settings? Here they are, because they're actually set by SIMstarter NG. FXAA is on, 4 samples MSAA, anisotropic 4 times on texture filtering, global texture resolution ultra plus, and then we go down here. So VSync on, triple buffering on, unlimited frame rate, tessellation on because my graphic card supports that, and so on. And you'll see I can go through each of these panels and set a ton of stuff that you can also set in the sim, but this is how my sim will be configured when I say let's go flying with the VFR recording profile. Lighting settings, weather settings, traffic. I always fly with traffic off or most of the time. General, Am I going to pause the sim when I switch? Am I going to prompt on exit? Oh, absolutely yes. I was going to say a bad word, but absolutely yes. What else have we got in here? Text scroll. What kind of text scroll? Look at all this stuff down the bottom here, by the way. I always used to struggle with this. How do I turn off that nasty red text that says parking brake on and sim rate and all that kind of stuff? Here, show notification text off. So I turn all that red stuff off now when I film. My sound settings, my realism settings. Now realism, actually, I got a little bit confused down here. Let me scroll down. This one, enable auto mixture. It's very strange, this particular setting. Notice that enable auto mixture is checked and that's off. So there are some quirks in the user interface here, like I would expect checking enable auto mixture would turn auto mixture on, which is why I had that off previously. I actually tried to record this previously and it didn't come out very well. And in that video, I made the mistake of leaving this unchecked, which apparently leaves auto mixture on. Same on the auto rudder. No, auto rudder is actually working correctly. So off is off, which is kind of cool. Text. Various tweaks. So what's my texture max low? Well, I've got that not set. All these settings here are not set. I don't set my CPU affinity mask. Many people do. In prepared, I actually don't find it makes much difference. I don't mess with fiber frame time fraction and so on and so on. So this is my simulator config for VFR recording. Now my run config looks like this. And this is a great little interface. It looks really, really simple and really, really not powerful, but it's amazing. What this says is that when I run prepared, obviously we're going to run prepared, and I also want to straight away start track IR. Okay, so as soon as I run this config, track IR will start, then the sim will start. The sim will load all the settings that I just showed you, and I can add programs in here. In fact, I can add file operations in here as well. And this is one of those little details that buries so much power in this app. Look, if I click on add file operation, check that out. Copy, delete, rename, delete directory, or wait. This is very cool. Let's say you have, I don't know, you have a very, very, very custom set of, I don't know, config files or flight plans or something like that, and you want to copy them into a location when you run a certain config. You can do that here. Let's say maybe you have different FSUIPC settings based on what you're going to do. You can copy the FSUIPC settings file from a backup location to FSUIPC's expected location when you run the sim, when you run this config. Very cool, very powerful. Scenery settings down here. Use an external scenery config. I don't know what that does, but scenery config sets. I have a number of different scenery configurations. Here's my VFR flying scenery config. We open that up and it basically says everything gets turned on. I can also go in here and I can see in here the different sceneries that are enabled or disabled based on my config set. I can even go and edit it right here, reordering the scenery, adding space, changing all sorts of stuff, deactivating or activating everything all in one go. Very powerful. Over on extended settings, and again, even more configurations, the DLL.xml and exe.xmls, I can edit those. So let's go and look at exe.xml. It's config set 1, so I don't think I've edited this. No, I haven't. So it's going to fire up ActiveSky Next. It's going to fire up EasyDock. I could turn these things on or off based again on the profile I'm running. Just create a new config set by clicking New Config Set or Copy, which would copy this to a new set which I would edit. Same on DLL up here. So when I start, oh, look at that. VFR recording, Pilot Edge transponder will be on. FSUIPC will be on. ActiveSky Next will be on. And so on. You can completely tweak and change everything. Clean Desk, close and restart my programs. This is editable as well. If I click on this, you can see that I currently always have Dropbox running, always have Steam running. A lot of people message me on Steam. Hey, you there? Steam is always running. Even if I'm not at my computer, Steam is always running. So if I don't reply to you, there's a reason. Anyway, I can go in here and I can say that these two programs in particular, close it, and when the sim is done, restart it. And you can add stuff in very, very simply. Just click on Add Program, find the program, add it to the list. Pretty cool stuff. Restart Aero, don't worry about that. Restart SimClient, don't worry about that. Now, ActiveSky Next, check this out. This, again, is an immensely powerful set of options. Do we configure ActiveSky Next? So when we run VFR recording profile, do we allow SIMstarter NG to set ActiveSky Next options? This isn't an add-on that controls the sim options on its own. It can also control ActiveSky Next, which is amazing. So auto run ActiveSky Next when I start the sim, and the config set I want is VFR historic weather. You see I've got a couple of profiles in there, VFR live weather. If we look at historic weather, we can pop that open, and again, multiple tabs which correspond with Active Sky Next options. And I currently have a lot of things in there for visibility and how the clouds look and how many clouds there are, but also VFR historic. When I record a VFR flight, in fact, when I record any flight, I tend to set Active Sky Next to use historic weather locked to the sim time. This one is not actually locked to the sim time, which is very, very odd. It should be. Let me change that. Locked to sim time on. There we go. So whatever time and date I set in the sim, that's the time and date that Active Sky Next will pick up weather for. Yes, save that. OrbX regions. Am I flying with OrbX? Do I want to use OrbX regions? And again, I can drop this down and go FTS Global Hybrid, or North America, which is cool. Do I want to use an external FSU IPC INI file? So instead of the standard FSU IPC config, do I want to use a second one? And over here on high-res VFR, yes, save this profile. It's very, very similar to my VFR recording, but again, this is another very powerful feature. Nowhere in here in this app do I have the ability to set the resolution that I'm flying at. Now, when I record, I tend to record at 1080p. When I don't record, when I'm flying on my own, I tend to fly at 2K or 1440p, so 2560 by 1440. There is no option in here to set the resolution, but it will pick up that change. So what I did was I copied my VFR recording profile to a new one called High-Res VFR, ran the sim, went into the sim options, changed the resolution, and when you exit out of the sim, SIMstarter NG looks at the config files of the sim and sees the things that you changed. So in that case, I changed the resolution. It says, do you want to do this every time you run this profile? Yes, I do. So now if I want to fly high-res VFR, which means I tend to move most of my graphic quality down so I can just focus on practicing what I'm doing or just messing around, I tend to move my resolution up. When I run a high-res VFR, it does all that for me. That, in a nutshell, is what SIMstarter NG does. And it is absolutely amazing and incredibly valuable to me, and I think a lot of you are going to get a kick out of it as well. And the reason I say that is not because all of you have separate recording and normal flying profiles, but many of you do switch between VFR flight and IFR flight in a jet. An IFR flight in something like the PMDG 737 at 30-odd thousand feet, you don't really need to see all the detail on OrbX's latest regional airport, for example. So you can go into the scenery config here and turn off regional airports. You can go into the graphics settings and lower the level of detail, for example, on the ground, or autogen or stuff like that. Flying VFR, I want highly detailed, low altitude clouds. Flying the NG, I wouldn't typically worry too much about having highly detailed low altitude clouds because I'm at 30-odd thousand feet. I'm more interested in what's going on up there. So if you're in the same boat with different types of flying and you want to tweak the sim based on the kind of flying you're doing, this is an absolutely invaluable tool. I highly recommend you check it out. I don't remember the price of this. It wasn't expensive. I think it was about $30. Hang on. Let me load it up here in the browser. Bring the browser back here. What is SIMstarter NG? Yada, yada, yada. Go get it at the Aerosoft shop. So we'll go on over to the Aerosoft shop and we'll go to, well, I'm the USA, so we'll go there. $15, so $14.16, which is an absolute bargain. SIMstarter NG from Aerosoft. Highly recommend it. As always, my name is Frugal. Thank you so very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you all very soon.